Was Michael planning to have other artists that he was close with, that he looked up to?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was his wish list?
Well, I gave him a short wish list, and because I asked him, I said, well, it'd be so great, to have people. He was like, sure, if their schedules permit. Can you imagine that, if their schedules permit? And he was like, sure, they can all come, as long as the schedules, if it's not too much of a problem for them.
In other words, Michael Jackson is calling,
right.
And it's like, let me see my schedule.
Right. Can you imagine that, he was just that humble, not assuming that he could get everybody, but, of course, I suggested Janet, and of course, Whitney Houston, because thinking at the time her album would have been coming out, it could have been a good thing, and he loved her, and of course, Diana Ross, and, Mariah Carey, we talked about Missy Elliott, we talked about Usher, of course, we talked about Justin, Celine Dion, we talked about Sting, and Seal, and Bono, and Tina Turner. We talked about, all of these sort of people that not only I thought was cool, but that he liked, and, then he said to me, I go, is there anybody else, that you're thinking? He goes, Lady Gaga. I go, really? He goes, yeah. So he's the one who really got me to sort of get into her. He literally told me, he was like, you got to get into her. She's good. And so I started listening to her music more and going on YouTube and looking at all her performances, and I was like, he's right, and then ultimately, in November, I get a call from Lady Gaga, and just like, oh, this is strange, but not really, because he had just mentioned it, and then I told her the story, and of course she got moved by it.
Yeah, because I think that was the same time that we run into each other at the American Music Awards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the first performance I did with her, was the AMAs. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even think that there is anything else to ask you. I mean...
Well, you should know, though, and Michael's fans should know, that every time we talked about the show, every time we talked about anything that has to do with the show, he always talked about his fans. He always talked about, the fans are important. The fans want this. You can't tease them. If you're not going to do this song, don't even play it. You have to, you got to keep in mind, they're very passionate. You can't tease them, because oftentimes, being a fan myself, I would want to, start with the intro of Smooth Criminal, but then go into Beat It, and then go to Bad, but then wind up at Dangerous. Just to me, like mashups, I thought would be really cool. He was like, oh no.
No, they want to hear full songs.
He said, no. He said, no. If you start playing that song, you got to play it. And I said, okay. He said, oh no, you can't tease them. So the fans were always at the forefront of this entire process. And, it was no different when we were, found ourselves with the responsibility of creating the documentary. It was for the fans. It was always for the fans, and, and of course Michael's family, especially his children.